Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our panel interview on guided implant surgery, the 3D revolution. I would like to welcome everyone and thank our panel members for joining us today. I would like to start with Mr. Mark Ambridge, is Director and Senior Ceramist at Ambridge Ceramic. He has 25 years experience where he has pursued his passion for dental technology, developing new skills with each new innovation. Lino Adolf is a Dentsply Sirona in-lab trainer who focuses on CAD/CAM technology using CEREC and inlet systems to produce high-quality crown and bridge and implants restorations. Being a certified trainer allows him to share his know-how and expertise with users in training. Last but not least, Stephen Green is an early adapter of CAD/CAM technology. Along with the digital manufacturing, he has developed the daily receipt of digital impressions, having restored over 1,000 restorations in the last 3 years. Stephen's studio has recently been awarded Most Innovative Laboratory of the Year at the Laboratory Dental Awards 2016. We are delighted to have you here as our participants in the 6th annual Digital Symposium, and thank you for joining us on this panel today.
Thank you for having us.
I would like to start with the first question then, and let's start with which 3D printer would you like to suggest to the future users out there?
I think I'll give it a go. I think it depends on your budget, all right? So that's the primary. So the more expensive they are, the tendency you get more accuracy and the quicker they are. And so you can go, for instance, with Strategist, for instance, which is a very good printer, but very expensive. Then you get the more budget one, but then again, the accuracy is there, but it takes longer. So for instance, a very sort of well-known one would be Formlabs. So that is within budget, and it's also a very good printer, but it takes quite some time to do that. So I would say within the printers, I would go for those two.
Also depends on what you want the printer to do.
That is correct.
So if you're just going to print models, then maybe a lower quality printer is a good idea. Exactly. If you want to print components for casting, then maybe the higher quality printer would be a better idea.
Yeah. And Stephen, you?
I think the way I looked at it when I first started to look into it, perhaps about a year ago, was what quality each of them printed to. And I think perhaps if people are looking to buy, one of the main considerations should be to perhaps look at what you do the most of, which could be any variation. It could be models, it could be copings that you do cast. Whatever you do probably 80% of your work in, then perhaps send an example of that to each of the different companies and ask for a printed model. Or a printed item.
The sample.
Yeah, because I think all of them are quite happy to do that, and I think that helps you to decide what works within your own workflow.
Well, good couple of answers. So next question: how much does it cost to actually produce a surgical guide? We'll start with Lino again.
Surgical guide, I think it will roughly probably between 4 and 7 pounds, more or less, give or take. Roughly.
Yeah, that's what we figured out. Depending on size of guides, depending on material used.
But I think the average number is between 4 and 7.
I think if you take into account the investment,
but that's not taking that into account, is it? That's
it's
just the
cost.
pure material
The
cost.
material cost.
Once you look at the cost of the printer, then
price goes up.
What would you have a figure on the cost of with
I think
investment inside?
I would agree with the other panel members in terms of the cost of the actual materials. I think the variation, the huge variation in cost of the actual printers themselves does have an effect, if you like, on the amount you charge that out at. So, you know, and they range from perhaps Formlabs, which is at the lower end of your budget, up to, you know, there are many others that are 25,000 plus. So, I think it plays a part when you consider what you're going to charge for your work.
So then I think we covered the next one, what should I charge then? But we have now the cost, so what would exactly should I charge for a surgical guide?
Well, I mean, I can only say what I charge for a surgical guide. And we break it down into different categories. So basically, we charge for a basic guide, which is like £80. If we do the design of the guide on the software, then we have an additional charge of £70, and then we charge £20 per metal cylinder that's inserted into the guide. Now, if the surgeon wants to design his own guide, then that's taken off the cost of the guide. But they have to be careful which software they use, because some have more expensive exports. That then has to go back on top of the guide. They might pay the export, or we might pay the export. So it's not a simple answer, but that's how I work mine.
It's pretty much the same thing. So
Yeah.
you need to be very careful how you price it. So there is a basic cost price, but then everything else that you do in addition to it needs to be added to it.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, so this is how it works.
Yeah.
So you can't really surgical guides, or it requires a little bit of time to design them if you want to design them. But everything adds up. So there's not a fixed price that you can say, okay, this is the value that I charge for all my guides. Doesn't work that way.
But compared to the value of what they're getting,
Yeah.
it's minuscule, really, because it's such a valuable piece of equipment.
I think one of the important things is, as Mark's just touched on, we shouldn't undervalue as technicians what we actually do and what these things are used for, and the price that is being charged out at the other end. So I think it's important to recognise that and make sure we charge within that. And if you have these outsourced, they are considerably more expensive.
Yeah.
So, we have a little bit of room there to be profitable and to provide a good quality service as well.
Good, thank you. For designing, we said designing cost is a main factor as well in the price. But what software would I use then or do you use in designing a surgical guide?
Again, there's a huge variety of softwares out there. We use Blue Sky Plan by Blue Sky Bio. It's free of charge. It's totally free software to download for both us and for the surgeon. There are other softwares like Co-Diagnostics, which is a Straumann-based product, and that comes around about £4,000, I think. Different companies have different softwares, and all at varying prices. So you just decide which one you want to align yourself with, but be prepared to pay for exports as well. It's an open game, really.
Yeah.
In that aspect, I know there's a big variety where you can choose from. Myself, I literally just focus, for now at least, this is just a choice I've made, with CEREC dentists, because the workflow is just seamless. They do the planning, so we can reverse engineer everything. So that's the whole point of also surgical guides. So it's not to the point that they place their implant and then they send the case to you and then can you please sort this out. So with surgical guides, we reverse engineer, because the whole sort of process, the workflow within Dentsply Sirona is sort of like seamless. It works. So for now, I've just chosen that I'll go and I'll just stick with CEREC dentists that do use that workflow. So I don't use any other.
Yeah.
The one that I do use is from Dentsply Sirona. So I just use the in-lab software to design the CEREC guides.
Again, I think the Blue Sky Bio is perhaps, as a style of planning, is a way forward, and I think perhaps we may see more of that type of thing available. The online sort of service where you have to buy the production of 5 items.
Yeah.
You buy effectively 5 tokens, which is good for the lab, because it means that it's not overly expensive, because what we've been up against before has always been very expensive software.
Yeah.
So it's an acceptable price for most laboratories that have got digital systems to operate within, and I think it will be something that perhaps develops further, and perhaps we see more competition.
I think so, yeah.
So then, the cost of that software that you're using, you covered that you're not paying anything, but I think there are softwares out there that you then need to pay something for.
Yeah.
Right. In my case, so breaking it down, you need a license to work, so it's an implantology module, and that module costs a one-off payment of €1,000. That's it. So it's not that expensive.
An easy answer.
Straightforward.
That's it. And then what are the advantages of using these guides to a technician as to a surgeon as well?
But basically what I said before, just going back a little bit, is that you reverse engineer, so you're not second guessing. it's more predictable. So you already know what the end result is, and from that end result, then you do the surgical guide, you place your implant, but you know exactly where those implants are going to be positioned roughly, right? And I think that basically minimizes the sort of the dental technician having to sort of
Compromise
on the solution, and it's predictable for the dentist. They know exactly where they're going to go, and we know exactly what we need to do to achieve the good results they're expecting.
You're much more in control of the aesthetic outcome.
Yeah.
Because as Lino says, you can position the tooth virtually before you start the planning. So if the implant then comes out in the correct spot, then you know the final tooth is not going to be compromised, and you know a best result for the patient.
Yeah.
I think predictability for both parties, the dentist and the laboratory, is perhaps the key to it. And there's perhaps nothing more frustrating from a technician's point of view when you have to restore particularly an anterior crown where the implant's in the wrong position, you can't get the right shape, you know it's not as good as it could be, but you make the compromise, which you have to do. But I think, you know, it's nice when you get something that is absolutely spot on, and I think that predictability is what, you know, we're all aiming for, and of course what the patient requires as well.
Good. And then why does using a surgical guide make it so much easier, safer and faster, as well as more predictable?
Well, sorry.
You go.
I was just going to say, you wouldn't drill a hole in your house wall without testing for cables first, would you? You know, you'd check the electricity wasn't there. So you've got that added advantage of being able to see inside the bone, see under the soft tissues before you've even opened the soft tissues. So the surgeon knows exactly what they're going to encounter. So they know where to place the implant, and that helps them place that implant in the specific spot that's been designed for.
I think that just basically summarizes everything. I know there's a lot of dentists that will say, but I can place an implant and I don't need a guide. But then at the end of the day, it's not precise. You kind of like, it's intuition. You assess like a 3D image, and say, okay, I'll place your implant there. But I'm not going to go into the clinical because I'm a clinical. But I think that if you have a guide, then I think the accuracy increases, and it's not intuitive, and you're not second guessing. So again, we go back to the same issue, which is more predictable, the result that you get.
Safety.
Exactly.
I think you probably, if you've got an implant in the correct position, your restoration is under less stress, particularly as we're using newer materials, more aesthetic materials that are perhaps not bonded crowns anymore, so you've not got the metal support there. But it does come down to predictability. I suspect also there is some time saving to be made from that, because your planning has all been done up front. So when you have your guide, you know exactly where you're going, and you know exactly what you're expecting to encounter.
Well, and then I think we covered this as well, but do they actually work?
Yes, definitely. Definitely. Yeah.
I think when you have the box of work that comes in, the first thing you do as a technician, once the model's cast, is you take it out and have a look.
You look at the positions
to see if the dentist has followed the guide, and I think you can see when they have, you know, and sometimes they don't, and that may have been for a reason that we don't know. But you know, it's just I think it's one of those things that technicians count in the head. They make a mental note and then store it.
And then, as last question, would you choose for a fully guided or a pilot surgery?
Well, through experience, the majority we do a pilot, and the feedback we get from that is that they still like to feel the quality of the bone before committing to the full size hole. So I think partly that's a confidence aspect, where they're going down the guided route, but they still want to be able to drill the small hole, take the guide out of the way, and then feel what they're doing. I think as we go further and further down this route, more and more fully guided will be done. It will then encourage the less experienced implantologists to have a go at placing implants.
Yeah, you just said it all, so I can't really add more to that. So definitely.
I suspect again it's something that will be, over the years, there will perhaps be more guided done, simply because there will be processes by which there is maybe less radiation with them, and you know they are more accurate, and generally perhaps that will be the case in the future. But like Mark, most of what we do tend to be not guided. They're just
pilot holes. Yeah.
Pilot holes, yeah, that's right.
Well, then I would like to thank you for participating in this panel interview. Thank you for being here on the Digital Symposium. And I would like to thank everybody for watching.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.